Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Virtual Non-Deal Roadshow. My name is Danielle Saul, Virtual Event Moderator here at Renmark Financial Communications. And on behalf of our team, we want to thank you for joining us today for the presentation of Lundin Gold, Inc. Lundin Gold is currently trading on the Toronto Stock Exchange under ticker symbol LUG. Presenting today is President, Chief Executive Officer, and Director, Ron Hochstein. Now, without further ado, Ron, I'll hand over the floor to you.
Thanks, Danielle. Just at a very high level, Lundin Gold is a single asset company. We have the Fruta del Norte mine, which is one of the first underground Western-style gold mines in the country of Ecuador. We're located in the province called Zamora-Chinchipe, which is right in the southeast corner. We're only about 10 kilometers actually from the border with Peru. We started production in late 2019, reached commercial production in February 2020. It's an underground operation, and our current mine life is about 14 years. You can see our reserves here put us in one of the highest grade producing gold mines in the world today, with reserves just over 5 million ounces at an average grade of just over 8 grams per ton. For 2021, we are projecting a guidance of 350 to 420,000 ounces, and all-in sustaining cost at an all-in sustaining cost is $770 to $830 per ounce. As Daniel mentioned, we do trade on the Toronto Stock Exchange. The symbol is LUG. We also trade on the Stockholm Exchange with the same symbol. You can see here our current market cap is just over 2.6 billion Canadian. We're well covered with 10 analysts covering us, a majority in Canada, 9 in Canada. We do have 1 in Sweden analyst that cover us. And all have a buy rating, only 1 with perform, the rest are all buy or outperform. Our shareholder base is comprised primarily of 2 strategic shareholders, the Lundin family at 27%, and Newcrest, a large Australian mining company, at 32%. And then you can see the breakdown with management at 5%, retail, and institutional. The shares are fairly well traded on Toronto, and most of our volume is on the Toronto Stock Exchange, vis-a-vis Stockholm. The board is made up of Lucas Lundin as our chairman. Carmel CD Capital was a key investor early on in the project. Ian Gibbs, financial and mining expertise provided by Paul McRae, Chantel. We do have 2 board members from Newcrest as part of their shareholding, Craig Jones and Bob Teal. Both bring a lot of operating experience. Ashley Heppenstall is our lead director, and our newest director, Jillian Davidson, is brings a lot of new talents to our board at ESG, and in particular, her guidance there, and also health and safety. I lead the management team. It's a team that's been in place since the start of this company. This whole team, we have been here since the formation of the company, and you can see a very broad, diverse majority of the team. Alessandro, Sheila, and Chester are based, and now Nathan as well, are based in Vancouver. Ileana, myself, and Dave as well, Elizabeth, is based here in Quito, Ecuador. We're led by a strong operating team. You can see the names there. Again, this team, other than Guy Bedard, who's a new general manager that just started with us a few months ago, the rest of the team has also been with the project right from the start of construction through to today. Now let's focus a little bit on the future. We at Lundin Gold really focus on, for our shareholders, on 4 key pillars to create value for our shareholders. The first 2 around operations. It is, as I mentioned, one of the highest grade gold mines in production today in terms of reserves to large, over 5 million ounces. But doesn't mean even with these great grades we can rest on our laurels. We have to continue to keep pushing to reduce our operating costs to deliver significant free cash flow for our shareholders. As part of that, after only a couple months of operation, we determined that we thought we could make some changes to the plant and add a truck or 2 to the mine and increase our throughput from the original design capacity of 3,500 ton per day to 4,200 ton per day. That expansion now is essentially, the mine is up and running at 4,200 ton per day as of mid-year, and the mill is currently running, and the expansion is complete. There's a few pieces of equipment yet to be added, which were primarily for availability reasons, not for the expansion. And so that effectively the expansion is well underway and essentially, in all intents and purposes, complete, and we are now running at that throughput rate. The other two areas are more longer term, and they both entail the drill bit. First, reserve growth. This is drilling underground at Fruta del Norte to further infill our reserves to bring more maybe from the from inferred into indicated, but then also an expansion program. And this is a conversion / expansion to bring more of our inferred and indicated, but also to increase the inferred resources. And then the real exciting upside is regional exploration. We currently have a program underway, 10,000 meter program, which entailed drilling 2 prospects. We've done the first 6 holes on the Barbasco prospect, and we're now drilling the Puerto Princesa prospect. I mentioned our Q3 results. We produced just over 107,000 ounces. We do produce gold, both as a concentrate, which most of the gold is in that form of concentrate, but we also produce a doré. And so that's why you see this breakdown here. You can see the throughput actually at just over 3,900 ton per day is already well on our way to the 4,200. We did process higher grade material. This was planned as part of the overall mine plan. And the one area too, you can see where we continue to make headways on our recovery. You can see an increase of 2 percentage points over our 3 months last year, but we still have room to go. That's part of our operational excellence, is to continue to increase our recovery. You can see with the third quarter production now, that brings our total annual production for 2021 to just over 320,000 ounces. So we're well on our way to meet our guidance. And last quarter, we did indicate that we are heading towards the upper end of our production guidance and the lower end of our cost guidance for 2021. The story here for Fruta del Norte through our operations is cash flow. This is our Q2 cash flow. You can see we started the quarter at 94 million. We had operating cash flow of 142 million. And then you take the CapEx off to get to what we call free cash flow, which was about 17 million. It's 125 million in free cash flow. Now, what did we do? We used about 36 of that to pay down some debt and also our finance charges. And as a result, we went from 94 million cash balance at the end of Q1 to 192 million at the end of Q2. With these numbers, we can generate significant free cash flow yields, significantly above our peer group. And this is the story behind Lundin Gold, is the ability to generate significant cash flow, which gives us a lot of opportunities in the future to look at further expansion, increase exploration activities, or if we are successful, or not if, but when we are successful exploration, we have the cash flow to accelerate a project rapidly, potentially look at M&A opportunities, and also dividends. COVID is always something that we all deal with every day. And the new government that came into Ecuador in May of this year, and I'll talk a little bit more about their policies, have done an excellent job of pushing vaccinations here in the country. We work with the Ministry of Public Health, and they come to site on a weekly basis. And currently, we have over 99% of our employees and contractors partially vaccinated, which means they either have only 1 dose of a 2-dose vaccine, or we also have a 14-day period after they've received both doses. And we're 97% fully vaccinated. We will be essentially 100% vaccinated here very shortly. There were a couple projects that were part of the original construction, one of which was the Zamora River Bridge. This was completed in June of this year. And this had a significant impact to reduce our transportation costs and just help essentially the morale and also within the city, around the town significantly. This project now is complete. This was done on schedule essentially and under budget, but most importantly without any safety instances with a very complex construction project. The other part of the construction or the original project that we still have ongoing is our self-ventilation raise. This is something that we've been working on now for a while. It's been a challenge. We've decided to change our tact and how we're approaching this to go with what's called slash and mine. So now we're going to essentially mine it out and put in a concrete liner. We're now forecasting this to be complete at the end of Q2 of next year, but we can assure you that there are no impacts on our 2021 production or projected 2022 as a result of this revised work plan. I spoke a little bit about the expansion. You can see here in this photo some of the flotation, 6 flotation cells that were added, but essentially all the flotation equipment and the filtration press which was added to the mill are up and running. We have some other pieces of equipment which will be added essentially to increase the availability, ensure we maintain high availability of the mill, but they're not needed to reach the 4,200 ton per day. And I can say now, it's effectively here, we said in Q4, we are now running at that 4,200 ton per day, which met our original objectives. And we will be running at this throughput rate throughout 2022. So potentially produce more ounces. Now let's talk about the other longer term aspects. This first is a graphic about our infill and our conversion expansion program. You can see on this graphic, the green blocks are the indicated, the brown are the inferred. And so you can see how we've extended our development out and we're drilling out in these inferred areas to potentially increase the resources, increase our inferred, but also increase the drill spacing so that we can bring some of these inferred into our indicated resource and further extend our resources, expand our resources, and extend the mine life. The real exciting part, though, is our regional exploration. When we acquired Fruta del Norte, we also acquired the land package that Kinross originally had, which was over 60,000 hectares. Work had been done originally by the original founders of Fruta del Norte, a company called Aurelian, and Kinross did more work, but none of them had put any drill bits and drills into the ground. We did a program a couple of years ago, right in the very south, near the target called Imperador you see here. But then as we did more work, we determined that our best prospects are further closer to Fruta del Norte, Barbasco, and Puerto Princesa. We have drilled the 6 holes planned of Barbasco, and right now we're just interpreting the results that we've seen on those, and we'll be looking forward to providing more input as part of our Q3 disclosure. And we're currently drilling on the Puerto Princesa target. We've now completed 2 holes and we've got 2 more underway, and there's a total of at least another 2 there planned for this target. This again is very exciting potential. We are, Fruta del Norte is one of the best deposits ever found in recent history in the gold business, and we're in the backyard, we're in the area where we can potentially find more, and that's our objective, is to find another Fruta, at least one more Fruta del Norte, which would have significant impact to our shareholder value. Now, none of this can be done without a strong sustainability strategy. We had a strategy in place from when we first came here through construction. We worked on it, we worked with the local communities, and it entails working dialogue with the communities, and many of the aspects you see here now. Now that we're in operations, we've actually put together a 5-year sustainability strategy. And so we have now KPIs and measures through all of these areas to work with the communities. These KPIs are shared they're not only internal for ourselves, but shared with the communities. Our focus primarily local procurement, local hiring, which entails training, etc., and all the other areas, but those are our key components. Right now, our workforce is well over 90% Ecuadorian, of which over 50% are from that province of Zamora Chinchipe. These are many of the factors that are part of our strategy and environment stewardship program. We are adopting TCFD recommendations and corporate climate related into our disclosures. On the social, I mentioned local hiring, 1,766 jobs currently as of the end of August, of which 51% were from Zamora Chinchipe. Zamora Chinchipe, again, had some artisanal mining, but was mostly just subsistence agriculture. And as a result, we had to do a lot of training in order to provide these opportunities. As of now, Yansatsa, which is the canton that we're in, which is part of Samora and Chinchipe, that we are seeing now, based on the work that we've done with local people and hiring and everything, that the average salaries for the canton of Yansatsa is twice that of the country overall. And the country overall has essentially been flat over the last few years. But Yansatsa has gone from where it was at the national average now to twice that. We have spent over 23 million on local procurement in the province. And overall, through construction, close to 400 million was spent here in Ecuador. And we've also worked on not only, these are not just local procurement for the operations, but we've also spent just over 20 million in domestic economic strengthening projects. So these are things such as working with agriculture, working with other industries to develop, so it's not everyone can or wants to work for the mine, but we can help to develop the economies locally. In terms of governance, it's always been a strong point, and we continue to push, including diversity, reporting our sustainability. Actually, the 2020 sustainability report was our 5th report, and we continue to look for, as I mentioned, TCFD. So we continue to look for opportunities to improve on our governance. One project that we're particularly proud of is the Estamos Conectados project. And this was, schools are still closed here in Ecuador, even though vaccinations are very high, they still have not moved forward with opening the schools. And the internet in the area was poor. So obviously with school closed, everyone's gone to remote learning, as many of you know. But without good internet or without having the devices, the students in the local area of influence around us could not really be educated. So we worked with local government, Ministry of Telecommunications, Ministry of Mines, Ministry of Education to help train the teachers to improve the internet service to all the communities around the mine, and to also purchase and distribute over 1,300 tablets so that every student from kindergarten to grade 12 has a tablet, which enables them to essentially do their learning. We're very happy to announce that several of our suppliers and lenders, suppliers of services, participated in this project, which you can see here. This project now is well underway and has been very successful in the local area. I mentioned earlier that we had a new government in Ecuador. President Lasso was elected in May, and he has done an amazing job right now for the country. The Ecuadorian bonds are up over 30% year to date. I talked about the vaccinations. He made a commitment on his inauguration speech to have 50% of the population vaccinated within his first 100 days. He did that. He's continued to support mining with putting a national decree in place to set the foundation for a national policy. And he's now published some bills for creating opportunities, and also reached a new agreement with the IMF in order to provide future funding. The other thing that's really happened in Ecuador is that the government has started to realize what mining really can do for the Ecuadorian economy. Ecuador primarily relies on oil historically, and with oil price fluctuations, the other businesses, tuna, cocoa, shrimp, etc., have grown, but they see what mining can do, and oil tends to be large funds for the national government, but not so much economic development locally, where they see mining as both. And these are just some of the numbers here. Very quickly, 810 million exports generated in Ecuador during 2020. Now remember, Ecuador is a US dollar economy. They need those exports to support dollarization. Over the life of mine, we expect to pay over $1 billion in taxes and royalties. And our domestic purchases through construction were about $626 million. We were pleasantly surprised with what we could purchase here in Ecuador, considering that no mines have been built in this country prior to that. In closing, our 4 pillars: operational excellence, the throughput expansion, which we're realizing today, and the future reserve growth and exploration. Through execution of all four of these pillars, our focus is on creating value for our shareholders and potential shareholders. So that is our focus. Shareholder value, create value in everything we do every day. On that note, I'd like to thank you very much for taking the time to hear the presentation and be happy to answer any questions now if there are any. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ron, for this great presentation. We will now move on to the question and answer session. I will begin with your first question. Has there been any recent changes or additions to your institutional shareholders?
There has been some. We did see, probably more so a little while ago, a move out of the shareholders that have been with us from the early stages. They were playing more of this, investing more for the development story. We have seen some more of the traditional, such as the Fidelities, the BlackRocks, and those types of shareholders come in that are more for the production side, and also seeing the potential for the significant free cash flow that we can generate with this asset, and potential for growth or potential dividends as well. So we have seen a change to the more traditional large shareholders.
Do you have any warrants or options? If so, what is the strike price and expiry?
We do not have any warrants. Sorry, we do have some warrants, but it's a very small amount. It's tied to our cost overrun facility that was in place through construction. I think it's in the neighborhood of about 400,000 warrants. And the strike price on those, I believe, are about $5.50. The options, there are options outstanding. I think there's around about 3.5-4 million options. The strike price on those varies because those are part of our long-term incentive program for management and the directors as well. And they vary from $5.50 up to over $12 right now.
Have you seen cost increase, and what is your estimate concerning AISC in the nearest future?
Yes, we have seen some cost increases in some of our commodities, specifically grinding steel and drill bits and those types of things. We don't see any labor inflation here in Ecuador, which is one area I know that many other jurisdictions are seeing. We do not see that here in Ecuador. Actually, inflation rate here in Ecuador is less than 1%. Obviously, fuel increases, but that's not a big one for us because we're underground. So yes, we are seeing some, but we still believe, given the grades and the work the team's doing in improving our productivity and efficiencies, that we will be able to keep our all-in sustaining costs in below $800 an ounce.
Can you please speak on the regional unrest and protests seen in recent months?
There has been a little bit, not recently. It was more some protests in around the area of Azuay, which is in Cuenca. It's not affecting us. It's very localized issues there. But overall, Lasso, the new president, has a very high approval rating. He's done a very good job with the government in terms of, with the country in terms of vaccinations, and also renegotiating with the IMF. Where we do see some local protests, and it tends to be very much local issues. We have seen some protests in some of the roads, blockades that weren't long lasting with regards to farmers, and that have, again, it's very much localized issues, but nothing systemic through the country.
Who have the overlying royalties, and can you buy them back? What are the government royalties, and how are they distributed?
There was a 1% royalty that was to the original principals of Aurelian Resources. They have since sold that. Patrick Anderson had a 0.1% of that 1%, and Keith Barron had 0.9%. Keith sold his to Sandstorm and Patrick to Osisko Royalties. Those unfortunately, that was negotiated, or that was put in place. So there was no option. That was put in place by the principals. So there's no option to buy that back. So that 1% royalty is there. And again, that's to Sandstorm and Osisko. On the second question, the government does have a 5% NSR royalty. And under the Constitution, those royalties are 65% will go to the local governments where we operate. So Yansatsa, the GAD, or very local government of Los Encuentros, and some to the province. And then the remaining 35% is in the National Treasury.
Do you expect to be on the high end of 2021 production guidance, and are you on track?
Yes, on both those accounts. Yeah, we anticipate that, we'll be at the high end of our guidance. We do know we had some lower grade material planned to be mined through Q4, but we'll still be on track to meet the upper end and also the lower end of our cost guidance.
Has there been any artisanal concerns to deal with?
We have a program here at Lundin Gold that actually was set up by Kinross, which we inherited and we've continued to grow, where we actually signed agreements with artisanal miners, because we realize that artisanal mining is part of the local fabric of the communities, and we still have to be able to provide those opportunities. So we sign agreements with local miners so that they can operate on our concessions. They have to meet all the environmental government requirements. They're inspected regularly. And we have 18 different groups now that have signed agreements like that. Now that helps us to keep a formalized artisanal mining industry in place. We still do have issues with illegal mining. We do a flyover of all our concessions on a quarterly basis, and then we report any illegal operations to the regulators, the ARCERN or the mining regulator, and then they will then proceed to do investigations and, if necessary, evict people from those areas. Through the flyovers, we tend to not have any significant issues. And then we also, through this other program, we're actually supporting the artisanal mining industry.
It seems that your exploration insofar cannot be termed as a new discovery. What were the disappointing results of the exploration so far?
To be honest, yes, a bit disappointed with Barbasco. That said, these things are very difficult, and what we're learning is that what we're interpreting from the results we've seen to date, did we have a discovery? The answer, yes, the person's correct. The answer is no on Barbasco. But that's not saying that there isn't still opportunities there. These are 6 holes that we have to continue to reevaluate, look at the geochemical full suite of analysis in those holes. And there still is, these are indicating that we're still near a system. It just means that we need to do some more drilling.
What would you consider for a next phase of expansion?
For the next phase of expansion, we are looking at, once we complete that south ventilation raise that I mentioned, of potentially going to 4,500 ton per day. We believe that we can continue to optimize and improve productivity to get to that level. And then to go above that level, above 4,500, is going to take some further work on the underground drilling to expand our resources. And then we will have to look a little bit more, because we will be pushing the boundaries of our permitting and tailing. So it's going to take some more engineering work to go above 4,500.
Good to see the expansion project is on time and on budget. Are there any materials or equipments delayed due to the supply chain issues?
We were very lucky that we acted on this quickly. We actually, as part of our shutdown last year, that was due to COVID, and the country essentially shut down. That's when we did the work. It looked so good that we aggressively went forward and put all of our orders in for equipment at that time. So the answer is no, we didn't see any issues with regards to either delivery of the equipment or any cost inflation. So we were very lucky. If we had even left that a few months before pulling the trigger on that project, I'm sure we would have seen potential supply chain issues and cost inflation.
Is the grade of Fruta del Norte pretty uniform, or do you expect variations in grade year to year?
We do anticipate it is generally uniform relative to, say, a vein type deposit, in that our geological model is showing extremely good reconciliation with what we actually mine. That said, there are generally larger areas where the grade does vary. As I mentioned, we do anticipate having slightly lower grades our grades year to date have been in excess of 10 grams per ton, which is above our resource grade, reserve grade. We will be mining some areas that are more closer to the reserve grade in the fourth quarter. It's just part of the overall sequencing of the mine, but we can plan that very well, and we know what we're getting. There's no issues with regards to getting into one area and then the grade not being there. The model has been very accurate, and it's just a case of, yeah, there's some areas in the mine which are lower grade, but so far it's been very predictable, and we know what's coming.
Are you prepared to bring partners for the exploration program on your vast land holding to accelerate the discovery and expectations of the government for further mining activity?
The answer to that is no. With regards to the area that's near Fruta del Norte, we are generating significant cash flow, free cash flow, that we do not need to bring in a partner. And to bring in a partner here in that area just further complicates issues. We want to keep it simple. And also we want to make sure that we create that value for our shareholders alone. We do not need to bring in a partner. Now, that said, there were some blocks of concessions, 2 concessions quite a ways to the north and 6 concessions quite a ways to the south. And we worked with Newcrest, and Newcrest actually is working on those concessions and is farming in. You're going to spend money to earn a 50% interest, and they are the operator on those. But those concessions, are different type targets and are quite a ways away from Fruta del Norte. So it made sense because it'd be hard for us to justify working on those. This way, we can continue to, again, make those concessions to try and ensure there's work being done on those concessions. And Newcrest is a great operator, and they actually will be drilling one of those concessions, one set of those concessions later this year. But with regards to the primary block around Fruta del Norte, no, we'll take care of that ourselves.
What are your views on future M&A opportunities to help diversify your risk profile?
That's something that now that we've got our expansion behind us and operations are running well, is that we have started looking at that in more depth. The issue is Fruta del Norte is a phenomenal ore body, and we don't want to grow just for the sake of growing. We have to grow for something that's going to be accretive to our shareholders. There are opportunities out there, and we are evaluating them. It's something that hasn't really been a focus of ours, but now it is. And so, but it's going to be a bit challenging to find the right opportunities, but our shareholders can be rest assured that we'll only do something if it makes sense and is going to create shareholder value.
Is there any scope to increase throughput above 4,200 tons per day?
Yes, we believe there is, to add, essentially not quite 10%, but further increase the throughput to 4,500 ton per day. And yes, there are opportunities to increase it potentially up to 5,000 ton a day, but that's going to take more work, more engineering, and it's something that we have started to look at, doing some studies and see what our opportunities are. But to a slight increase to 4,500, we think will be something we can definitely look at in 2022.
Is management currently buying stock?
I know that management there's been options that have been close to expiry, that management has been exercising their options and holding onto the stock. And I'm not too sure, I believe that yes, there has been some purchases in the market, not significant at this point in time.
With your strong cash flow, when could we see a dividend or share buyback announcement?
Well, that's one of the things we definitely are looking at. We're talking to, it's something that's been on the board agenda. We'll be talking more about it as a dividend policy. We don't see a share buyback as really something in our future, because our shareholder structure right now is 59% is 2 strategic shareholders. And then so we don't see really the benefit of buying shares back, given the limited sort of free market float that's out there. Where we would definitely look at, though, is the payment of dividends.
How much cash flow can Lundin Gold generate over the next few years?
It obviously depends a lot on your gold price that you assume, but based on our current expectations, we anticipate being able to generate, and again, it depends on how you define free cash flow. So if you define free cash flow as operating cash flow, less capital expenditures and interest finance charges, we should be able to generate free cash flow in the neighborhood of between $300 and $400 million per year over the next few years.
Have you experienced any skilled labor shortages as the world recovers from COVID?
What's interesting is Ecuador is, it was very hard on the local economy, but we continued to operate. We never laid off anyone through, even when we were shut down. Within Ecuador, no, we're not seeing any skill shortages, and we also provide a lot of training. Where we do see some areas in particular is in the underground mining expertise, and those are more currently filled by expatriates that we have to bring in from other countries around the world. And I don't know if it's as much COVID related as it is just the industry has not been able to attract young talent, and it's an industry-wide issue, not necessarily a COVID-wide issue. Is the lack of expertise in the technical areas, underground mine engineering, underground ventilation, geotechnical. Those are the areas that we see that we're having to work a little bit harder to fill those roles.
How much is your free cash flow yield?
Yeah, our free cash flow yield, obviously, again, it's been a number of factors, but we currently anticipate our free cash flow yield is in the 18 to 22% range, and we see that increasing over the next few years. So that puts us in the upper end of our peer group in terms of free cash flow yields.
What are the relations with the major shareholders, example, Newcrest, and what are their expectations in ownership?
The relationships are great. As I mentioned, they do have two members on the board, Craig Jones and Bob Teal. Both are strong operating people, and they're always there, good support in terms of if we have any questions or anything with regards to operations. With regards to Newcrest's ownership, they are not only a 32% shareholder, they also own the stream and the gold prepay. And in terms of their future, that's a good question for Newcrest. All we can do as management is just focused on shareholder value, increase shareholder value, so that if and when Newcrest does decide that they would like to own all of this asset, we make sure that they're going to be paying a fair price, and that all our shareholders and all our other shareholders will benefit from that.
Thank you very much for taking the time to answer these questions, Ron. And Ron, before we go, I'll hand over the floor to you one more time for final remarks.
Thanks, Danielle, and thank you everybody for taking the time this afternoon around lunchtime, I guess, to hear a little bit about Fruta del Norte, Lundin Gold. Always happy to answer if you have additional questions. And I encourage you to go to our website at lundingold.com and take a look at our sustainability report as well, which really shows, I think, it's a key part to our success here at Lundin Gold. And look forward to our Q3 results, which will be up in early November. Be able to talk more about some of the exciting opportunities and our exploration results. Thanks very much for taking the time today.
Thank you very much, Ron. Once again, this was Lundin Gold, currently trading on the Toronto Stock Exchange under ticker symbol LUG. On behalf of Renmark, I want to thank everyone in Montreal and surrounding areas for joining us for today's presentation. We do hope that you stay tuned for future presentation in your area. And until we meet next time, stay safe and be well. Bye-bye.